Hey, so today I want to talk about feminism. I want to talk about how I came to know myself as a feminist and how that hasn't always been true. So I'm a pretty outspoken feminist now, but that hasn't always been the case. It wasn't until my second year at university, almost 2 years ago, that I actually came out as a feminist. I think it's important for people to understand how people like me came to realize that they were in fact feminists despite not fitting the stereotypical image portrayed by the media. I've always believed in the ideas of feminism. I've always believed that all people should be equal despite any differences in gender, race, ethnicity, sexuality, etc. When I was younger, I'd been brainwashed by the media and other public opinions to think that feminism was man-hating or evil or something like that. Now, for most of middle school and high school, I gave into the ideas that women should cover up and act a certain way, not realizing the greater meaning of what those actions on women meant. I also never realized how these ways of viewing women, like slut-shaming, were oppressing me and the other women around me. I never gave much thought to it at all. I'd grown up believing that these rules were just how it was and that I should obey the status quo. It wasn't until I got to college that I started to really realize all the inequality and the injustices around me. I started to understand how little freedom women had compared to men and how that inequality was even greater for women of color and for women who were not heterosexual. I've always believed in equality for all groups, but it wasn't until I was at a university that I began to realize exactly how little freedom people truly had and how much the world needed to change. Even in college, though, I avoided using the word feminist. I argued instead that I was an equalist, claiming that the name proved that I wanted everyone to be equal and I didn't support more women than men or anything like that. I was 100% wrong in thinking this. As I furthered my studies, I learned more about movements for equality, including feminism, and I realized that using the name equalist actually just belittled the feminist movement and everything it stood for. The term equalist took the focus of the movement away from gender inequality, which in turn gave more power to the patriarchy. The patriarchy being the system that allows men to have greater power over women. It's clear to me now that I avoid calling myself a feminist because, like many others, I didn't actually understand what the term meant, and I was afraid of the stereotypes that came with it. Luckily, I did finally realize what feminism actually was, and the movement has now become a huge part of my life. Feminist, a person who believes in the social, political, and economic equality of the sexes. Now, the question probably on everyone's mind is why anyone should care about how I became a feminist. But I actually think that this story is really important in understanding how people join the movement. I've come from a fairly sheltered background, having grown up in a rural, largely American conservative area. In this community, I rarely, if ever, was exposed to movements of equality. I, like many people around me, was taught that fights for equality were over and that sexism and racism no longer existed, so anyone trying to end them now were just trying to stir up trouble. I realize now how very wrong those statements were. But I think it's important for people to realize that not all feminists or other socially active people were always raised to understand the systems of oppression or the patriarchy that were around them. The radical idea in this video is to reach out to those people who don't understand what the movement is. This isn't about changing people's minds or even starting an argument, it's just about stating the facts of social equality movements like feminism. All you have to do to get people to join the movement is simply tell them what the movement is, because in a lot of cases people don't know. In reality, feminism is just common sense, which isn't how it's generally presented by the mass media. There are many young girls today around the world and in the rural United States who are actually feminists but won't identify as such because they don't even realize it in themselves. So thanks for watching today. I hope you enjoyed that video. I want to know in the comments your stories about how you became a feminist, or if you're not a feminist, why you choose not to be, or any other thoughts or feelings you might have. Remember to like, subscribe, leave lots of comments. I read them all. So thanks. Have a great day.